Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a really fascinating framework called the 4D virtual mind. It comes from the David Ordunez core spiritual belief system, and it basically blends deep spirituality with the language of modern technology, proposing a totally new way to think about our own consciousness. So, ask yourself this. What if your mind wasn't just for thinking, but could actually operate like a high-speed interface for divine intelligence? This system suggests that you can literally transform your consciousness into a direct link with what it calls universe consciousness. It's like turning your mind into a powerful spiritual Wi-Fi receiver. At its heart, the 4D virtual mind is defined as this advanced internal operating system. The whole idea is that it's designed to stream spiritual data directly into your day-to-day physical reality. It's a pretty big concept, so let's break down exactly how it's supposed to work. Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll get into the basic idea of this new digital spirituality. Then, we'll look at how that's meant to help you achieve master thinking. After that, we'll dig into how you actually activate the system. And finally, we'll connect the dots and see how all this spiritual data is supposed to translate into real daily rewards. So, first things first, how does the system actually see the world? It all starts with defining two interconnected dimensions, two layers of reality that are always talking to each other. So on one side, you've got the 4D layer. This is the virtual, the spiritual realm. Think of it as this data layer of just infinite possibility, where information moves with what it calls cyberspace logic, super fast. And on the other side, you've got our world, the 3D layer. That's the physical plane where we actually get things done. The whole key to this is the constant flow of information between these two dimensions. And this is where you come in. According to this system, you are the crucial link. You're the active interface that consciously downloads that stream of higher consciousness, that 4D data, and turns it into physical action right here in our 3D world. Now, the system makes this really sharp distinction between two kinds of people, framing it as philosophy versus engineering. On one hand, you have the dreamer who gets these great divine ideas. But then you have the non-builder, who's described as this negative force, someone who operates on doubt and lies and actually tries to sabotage the whole creative process. So let's move on and see how this all leads to what the system calls master thinking. And this isn't just about thinking positive thoughts. It's about fundamentally upgrading your whole internal architecture. Master thinking is what happens when you get that 4D/3D merger right. It's described as a complete rewiring of your brain to adopt a spiritual digital stacking power architecture. It's about learning to process reality with the speed and the precision of a high-powered computer. And this new way of thinking has two key parts. First, instead of just having random thoughts pop into your head, you're actively streaming intelligence through these quick data conversations with the universe. And second, you start to apply that cyberspace logic we talked about. You start seeing yourself as a dreamer creator who can actually engineer outcomes, not just sit back and hope they happen. And here's the roadmap for how that's done. This is the creation formula. It's laid out as this repeatable, predictable process that takes you all the way from abstract words through thoughts, intention, and focus, down to the real-world action of behaviors and adaptation, which finally creates your tangible reality. Okay, so this might all be sounding a little out there, right? Very theoretical. You're probably wondering, how do you actually do any of this? Well, according to the source, this isn't a passive system. You have to activate it. Think of it like this. The core of the system is called the kernel. And just like the kernel of a computer's operating system, it needs daily actions, daily maintenance to keep it running properly, to keep that spiritual Wi-Fi connection strong and stable. And what's really fascinating here is how this system connects that activation to our own biology. It suggests that you're actually leveraging parts of your brain, like the RAS, the reticular activating system, which helps you filter and focus on what's important. It also says you're using neuroplasticity, your brain's incredible ability to rewire itself to physically handle this high-frequency 4D data stream. So, this is really the bottom line. The crucial point is that consistent, repeated action is what strengthens and sharpens that connection to divine intelligence. It's not about waiting for some lightning bolt of inspiration. It's all about the daily practice. And that daily practice is built into a schedule called the Living Ritual System. You've got your morning activation to kick things off, a midday calibration to keep you on course, and evening rituals to process the day. It's all about keeping your internal instrument perfectly tuned. At the very center of this daily routine is something called the 12-minute powerful protocol. This is described as this short, high-speed ritual that's specifically designed to keep that entire creation kernel online and operational. But it's the final phase of that protocol that's supposedly the real secret sauce. It's all about review, adaptation, and these looping reminders. The source calls this the missing weapon, the critical piece that separates the active creators from the passive dreamers. Okay, now for the big question. Why? Why go through all of this? Well, the ultimate purpose isn't just about feeling spiritual. It's about what the source calls strategic engineering to get practical, tangible, real-world results. You know, this whole thing is framed as a creator's manual. The goal isn't just to have a nice feeling, it's a systematic process for turning those divine blueprints from the 4D realm into actual physical support and stability in your everyday life. And they get really specific about what this looks like. We're talking about things like personal finances, generating earnings and credits. It even mentions practical results like housing stability and things like Section 8 assistance. And beyond just the personal stuff, it's meant to power these huge social missions, like a project aimed at ending homelessness. And this is the ultimate stated goal. The idea is that you use this framework to manifest your divine destiny, to become a modern Lord and God who creates heaven on earth, not as some far-off idea, but as a practical, technical reality. So when you boil it all down, the 4D virtual mind is presented as the major upgrade that takes you from being a passive dreamer to an active master creator. It's a process for using spiritual digital data to make every single thought a precise instruction for the reality you're building. You know, it's a fascinating system that really merges these ancient spiritual ideas with the language of our time, of operating systems, data streams, and virtual worlds, and that leaves us with a pretty big thought to consider.